What is going on, everybody? We've got ourselves a big boy live stream tonight. We had 4 pieces of content I was debating making, whether it was the 2 showdown pieces or the 2 prize picks videos I normally put out, but figured why not just combine them into one mega stream? So that's what we've got here. And the added bonus for all of you out there is you have the opportunity to ask whatever questions you'd like. So just going to start with the format here. We're going to go through the PGA Tour event first, talk about the weather, hop into my favorite showdown plays, and then go through the PGA prize picks board. Afterwards, going to go through what we saw from the Live Tour today, the weather there, the showdown board, and the prize picks board. So, like I said, a lot to get through, and the goal here is to do this in under an hour. So, if I'm going faster than usual, understand why, but I'm going to try and just cut to the points that you guys actually need. And after each main section, so when we talk about like showdown for the PGA board, I'll go through some questions. So feel free to put any that you have down there in chat as I'm talking through it, and then so on and so forth as we go through the video. So I see a few of you down there already. First off, want to welcome you. We got Sam Ergo who says, let's get it. Could not agree anymore. And Robert Bad says he's here for it all. And with that being said, let me go ahead and deliver it for you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's go ahead and talk about the PGA Tour course. So the John Deere Classic today played more difficult than usual. I expected that. Usually when wind gets in that 20 to 30 mile an hour range, it becomes a problem for these tour players. And you saw that today. The course was also set up a little bit more difficult than usual, not really from a distance perspective. In fact, a few of the par fives had tees that were a little bit moved up, but they also ran into the wind. So it was necessary. You know, they were playing a good 600 yards, even the 555-yard par five that was reachable for a good amount of the field is typically reachable for literally every single player. I mean, Brendan Todd had to hit I believe it was like a 3-wood off the tee. He knew he wasn't even going to sniff the front of that green. And typically he has no issue getting there. On top of that, you had pin locations that were tucked on quite a few holes, and that's why you saw so many play over par. I mean, typically the John Deere guys, every single hole except for 9. 9 is always difficult. It's a 500-yard par 4, which is usually going to play right around par, if not over par. Every hole usually plays under par. So hole number 1, 3, hole number 9, like I said, is normally difficult, but 11, 15, 16, 18 should play significantly easier tomorrow. And the reason I say that is if we take a look at the weather here, first off, the wind isn't nearly as severe for most of the day, and there's supposed to be thunderstorms tomorrow morning. So over here on Windfinder, you just have a few raindrops there, but if we look at the actual weather forecast, you can see that they're calling for thunderstorms the whole way from 3 to 7 or 8 a.m. There's a, let's see, like 30, 50, right around a 30% chance of thunderstorms. It's going to come through there sometime that morning. And while it might not delay play, it's going to bring some type of precipitation. And even if it's not electricity, right, even if it's just a rainstorm, I'd expect the golf course to be a lot more receptive than usual. And then if the wind, dies down like it's expecting, you can see single digits in terms of the sustained winds for the rest of the day. It's going to be your usual birdie fest around the John Deere Classic, where you see a scoring average close to 1.5, maybe even 2 shots under par because of how receptive the greens are likely to be. And in general, I mean, it's what we'd expect, right? If we're looking at guys that are accurate off the tee, that's usually what reigns supreme here. We're looking at guys that can get it rolling with the flat stick. And when it comes to showdown, which we'll talk about here in a second, just fading the chalk, right? Because when you're looking for those ceiling performances with the flat stick, it's not a very consistent thing, right? You can almost blindly fade the chalk when it comes to it because you're looking for an outlier performance to begin with. So in terms of like a split between morning and afternoon, I mean, I really don't think these wins are going to matter all that much, right? You'd argue that the afternoon would be the safer wave to take, but they're also dealing with the morning conditions, right? Greens that are a little bit more pristine, perhaps even more receptive because of the rain that came through. So I have a hard time saying to go and just stack the PM wave because that just seems like a blasphemous thing to say, right? Typically we're always going about trying to stack the AM wave. So for me here, I'm going to be playing it relatively flat and just expecting easier conditions in general, right? I think the storms that are coming through overnight, just the lower winds that we see in the forecast, pretty much no matter what source you're looking at, are going to make the scoring average look a lot more what we're used to seeing here at TPC Deer Run rather than what we saw for this year. So that's what I'm looking at from a weather perspective. Also want to take a look at the P locations, or I should say pin locations. kind of similar to today, where they're pretty much pinned, tucked on every single pin location. I can see front middle right there, right side, pinned right over that bunker right there, back left, back right. Just there's not an easy pin location on this golf course. I mean, the easiest pin that I could find, I mean, you can see this one right here. It's 5 steps off, 26 steps in, but everything is within 7 steps right here. It's the easiest pin location you're going to find. Or hole 16 right here, you have a quote unquote easy pin location that's just 5 steps over a bunker. So I don't expect it to play like 3-4 strokes under par. I don't think it's going to be just absolutely decimated like we've seen a few golf courses at some points this year, but I think you're going to see it play close to 2 strokes under par. So obviously, we're going to keep that in mind with doing some of our analysis here, and especially so when we take a look at the Prize Picks board. We'll go over to the projections, talk about some of our showdown picks. Also, I'll catch up on chat real quickly. We have Catch Me If You Can says, I'm sending Shank to the John Deere letter. Yeah, he absolutely played horribly today, so it didn't even matter that he withdrew. Yeah, a little bit more mad about Pendrith. He had like 40%. I had 30% too. He withdrew due to a illness, so obviously we couldn't see that coming. I don't think anybody out there could have seen that coming. But yeah, WTF. I'm pretty mad about it as well. I had plenty, Jeff, trust me. And it's frustrating. It's going to happen from time to time. You have guys like CT Pan, they withdrew. I mean, Jason Day, we saw that coming, right? Obviously could have expected that. But with Pendrith getting an illness, it's completely out of right field. So I'm with you there. It's very annoying, but can't worry about it anymore. I had him in 35%. I still have 65% of my lineups working. And at this point, it hasn't been all that bad because quite a few withdrawals out there, right? I took Jason Day out of my player pool. He withdrew. That burned like 7 to 8%, depending on what contest you were in. Adam Shank, obviously, like I said, it didn't matter. He was playing dog shit anyways. But he was relatively high owned. So a lot of the field was taken out there, including myself. Who else? Sloan withdrew. You have guys like Adam Hadwin who are +4, Donkey Chalk, Adam Hadwin. You have Webb Simpson, who's right now not outside of the cut line. I mean, you're looking at like a sub 1% 6 rate. And I have like 20% 6 of 6s. And that's with guys that are like 30% owned that withdrew. So I'm all for the carnage this week. In fact, I kind of hope it continues at this point because I faded the chalk for a reason, right? And, you're going to miss when you go out there and you take pretty aggressive stands. But the field is just completely whiffing this week, and you love to see it. That's a week when guys like me that go out there and fade the chalk aggressively play our best. So I'm looking forward to it. So you can see the piece of Donkey Chalks I'm getting back to. I'm going to play Adam Hadwin and Thigala, the guys that shot horribly today that nobody wants to get back to, right? And I faded them for 4-round contests. Same thing with Webb Simpson. But the difference here is I think people are going to play Webb Simpson, right? He double bogeyed the last hole. You could say that he played okay throughout the day. He was the most chalky player in your 4-round contest, or at least close to it, depending on what contest that you were in. And in general, he's expensive. He didn't show all that much ball striking upside today. He just kind of did the Webb Simpson thing where he shoots, 2-3 under par and just, unfortunately for him, he completely threw it away, right? He had that double bogey, sloppy bogey towards the end of his round on top of that. And in general, I'm not all excited about his prospects. And I think he's going to be like 25% owned. People are going to get cute about it. In Showdown, people are getting smarter. People are starting to react, not just act like sheep like they were before, where you just look at the top of the leaderboard and go, oh, I'm going to play Denny McCarthy today because he's -5 and he's the best guy at the top of the leaderboard. So I'm going to play a ton of Denny McCarthy. Well, that's the case, right? He's 25% owned, which is pretty damn aggressive, right? It's not 40% like it used to be in the past. I mean, Denny McCarthy would be like 50% owned, like half a year ago, or even especially like a year ago when it came to single round showdown. People have started to come around on it, probably because they realized how much money they were losing just playing the guys at the top of the leaderboard. But guys like Webb Simpson now are starting to get more popular, right? Guys that the narrative, oh, he didn't play all that bad today except for one hole, which I understand, but he had nowhere near a ceiling performance for his price tag. So I'd much rather pivot to the players that have arguably just as much upside that had a bad round one. And we know golf is a volatile sport, extremely random from round to round. So that's what I'm looking at the top of things. I'm fading Denny McCarthy's ownership. I have 40% in my lineup. So God, I hope he proves me wrong for my 4-round sake. But in Showdown, that's always something that I'm doing, just fading the guys that played super well in round one, unless their ball striking was just on another level. Like if they were just setting his missiles to 5 feet on every single hole, sometimes I have a hard time fading that. So it's not a head fast roll, but it is something that I am implementing here. Getting to Nick Hardy, he didn't have the best day today, but perhaps he bounces back. He was relatively chalky in contest, so because he had that bum performance, I think he might be a little bit lower owned. Unlike Webb Simpson, right? He didn't like throw it away at the end of his round. Just Nick Hardy wasn't really doing anything throughout his round. Wasn't making many birdies to begin with. Webb Simpson, on the other hand, I believe made like 5 or 6 birdies on the day. He went out there and had significant birdie production. So you can take a look at that. Maverick McNealy has the magic putter working this week. If he can even remotely figure out the ball striking, I think he could be in a great position to have a ceiling round. Charles Howell III played pretty solid, gets the tee off early tomorrow morning. So I like that for his prospects. Adam Long was okay. I like getting to him because I think he'll be relatively overlooked. Patrick Rogers had an eagle towards the end of his round, was overall mediocre throughout the day, but tees off in the morning wave. I like the price tag at $8,900. And because he's not there at like -4, -5, I think he's going to be lower owned than he was for these 4-round contests where he was relatively chalky this week. And I think he's good chalk. I think he's going to play well throughout the weekend. We'll have to see with Patrick Rogers, but to this point has been up and down. I mean, he hardly bailed himself out today. So he certainly needs to turn it around with the ball striking, but kind of like Maverick McNealy, the ball putter was there, the magic putter from that 10 to 15 foot range, which is what you're looking for these ceiling performances. He had it. He just wasn't setting them up for birdie. They were for par all day, unfortunately. JT Poston, I'll be fading. First round leader. It's just something that JT Poston does. And, obviously he can turn it around, right? Nothing's set in stone. But in the past, when he's been in these positions, he's kind of flopped like a fish. He's gone out there on the next round, not really had his best stuff. So for me at $8,700, I have him at 27% owned. I can't play him in half my lineups, right? If I'm going to take leverage on him, at least the role for me is to take at least double the field, if not like 2.5x the field. That's usually the goal that I'm going for. You can't do that whatsoever here at 27%. It just, or logically, right? You'd have to lock him into lineups at that point. So I won't be playing JT Poston at that price tag. Not really something I'm looking for. Brendan Todd, I'm playing. I like the putter. A few guys in this mid-tier range worth taking shots on because of the putter. Lanto Griffin comes to mind. I like Kevin Streelman. He can get hot in a hurry. Cameron Champ, I love his chances. He was setting up so many birdie looks today. Had 2 eagle looks on his first 5 holes, couldn't make either, ended up settling for birdie. And then just throughout the day, had multiple putts in that 7 to 10 foot range that he missed for birdie, but it was at least 5 or 6. And he was burning the holes on some of these 30 to 40 footers. So if you believe in putting karma, if you believe in putting regression when it comes to elite ball strikers, Cameron Champ was just doing elite stuff with his off the tee play and his wedge play, which is really what you're looking for from him. Morton Laird continues to hit the absolute shit out of golf balls. So I like that. He's obviously kind of like Cameron Champ, struggles with the putter. He's very inconsistent in that category. So he definitely needs that to turn around, but perhaps he gets that. Chris Gotterup, another player who played solid today, shot 6 under par. Unfortunately, did gain a bunch of strokes around the green, but, wasn't really overly, I don't know how to explain this. He was well balanced with his shots gained. He gained off the tee. He gained over a stroke and a half on approach, and he gained with the putter and then a lot of strokes around the green. So it wasn't like it was just 5 strokes around the green and he lost strokes with his ball striking or something like that. He still went out there, had that well-balanced approach. I don't expect him to shoot 6 under par once again, but 4 under par at his price tag, 5 under par, given the conditions are a little bit easier tomorrow, maybe enough to crack the optimal lineup, especially for smaller field stuff. So I love him in cash. I think Chris Gotterup is like one of my favorite cash plays on the slate. But for large field GBPs, I could see it as well. Emiliano Grillo, he has been showing a ceiling putter over the last 3 months. It's like every one set of every 2 to 3 events, he goes out there and gains 2 to 3 strokes to the field with his putter, which for him, that's a ceiling performance. The thing about Grillo is you need him to bring the ball striking to the table where, when he's playing his best golf, he's the best ball striker in the world. I mean, he can turn it on to that type of level where he's hitting the ball like a JT. He's hitting the ball like a Scotty Scheffler is when he's playing his best golf. The thing is, in this type of field, he would smoke the field if he was hitting the ball like that. He didn't do that today. He was making a bunch of putts, which for Grillo is, kind of backwards, right? We're not used to seeing that at this point, which is why I think he has so much upside. because if he can tune into what he usually does, right, which is go out there and gain a bunch of strokes on approach and off the tee, and then find that ceiling putter, which has spiked a little bit of late over the last few months, I really like his chances. So I wanted to identify him there. Lahiri, he could putt a whole bunch better, so I like his chances. Lipsky looked pretty great today. Was hitting almost every fairway and every green. Doc Redman looked solid. I'm getting back there. We've got Putnam, who's a ceiling putter. Smotherman could not buy a putt today. He was great with the ball striking, had multiple 5-foot misses. Around the green really cost him too. He duffed. I mean, that's just the best word I could use for it. He duffed a few chips out there. So I'm buying in on the bounce back performance. Justin Lauer at $7,100. He's consistently been good over the last few months. So I'm taking a shot there. Tyler Duncan's ball striking was on point today. Brandt Snedeker, he just needs the putting to come around. A great putter on bent grass. You can see gains close to 2/3 of a stroke per round. And he was playing better with the wedges. Just needs to get in the fairway more often. Needs to set up those wedges. It's hard to control your spin out of the rough. It's hard to get the ball close. And with somebody in a putting rut like he is, you got to hit it to those 5 to 10 footers, right? You got to give yourself a realistic chance to make birdie. James Hahn, I like his upside, high upside player. Same thing with Peter Malnati, great showdown plays. Zach Johnson just absolutely owns this place. So hopefully you played him in your 4-round lineups. Was somebody that I featured in quite a few of my videos. Talked about him on live stream, talked about him on the Value Picks videos. Vaughn Taylor, I hope you played him too. I talked about him yesterday. I'm not playing him because he's chalky. I'd much rather just pivot to Bill Haas, who similar type build, right? Very accurate off the tee, pretty solid with the approach play. Just has to find that spike putter. And Haas didn't do that today, right? Vaughn Taylor was able to. Obviously, that to do that 2 rounds in a row is a really tough ask, particularly from somebody who's not the best putter on tour. So I'm just going to pivot to Haas. He's like 16 times less owned, maybe even more than that. I like Whaley as a flyer. I like Chesson Hadley as a flyer, both solid putters. Aaron Baddeley, another really good putter that I'm taking a shot on tomorrow. We've got Sung Kang. He was 3 under par at one point, was playing solid. Kind of fell off towards the end, but I'm taking a shot on him. Satoshi Kodaira loves himself a short golf course. Jonas Blixt loves himself a short golf course. The putter has been on fire the last few weeks. Andrew Landry, a high upside play. And Brian Gay, another one of those short positional putters that kind of like Aaron Baddeley can just get it working in a hurry, right? Love those type of plays in Showdown. And Martin Trainer, the last type of play like that. Yeah, he's the last guy on the board that I have. He's $6,300 and same type of build, right? Short positional player. Not going to gain a bunch of strokes with the ball striking, but with these receptive greens, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're just hitting darts with your wedges, which every player on tour is capable of hitting darts with their wedges, these guys are going to fill it up with a flat stick. They're going to make all of those opportunities, or at least you hope they do, right? To get to that ceiling performance. That's why I'm focusing on the guys that are good on bent grass or just historically good putters in general. So that's what I'm looking at from a player pool perspective. We'll go ahead and catch up on chat before we hop into the prize picks board. Like I said, we have a lot to talk about here. So sorry if I'm going a little bit quicker. Let's see what we've got. He tested positive for COVID. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah, obviously, it's hard to know when that's going to happen with somebody. I've kind of forgotten about it a little bit in this type of climate, but definitely for sure could have seen that coming, but it sucks. It is what it is. Jeff says, do we like the morning wave again for Friday? I don't really, because of some of the wind gusts that we see there, but I'm not playing one wave or the other. I'm playing it relatively straightforward. I think that it might get delayed because we have some of those thunderstorms available. So I wouldn't go crazy with the weather. If anything, wake up early tomorrow morning. It's not going to lock until 7:45 Eastern time and check the weather, right? If it looks like there's thunderstorms in the area, obviously it'll get a little bit more mature as time goes on. I'm talking about the forecast, then react to it. But as of right now, I'm playing it relatively straight up, to be honest. If not, a slight emphasis on the morning just because of the receptive greens. But I think you should be playing guys in the afternoon as well. Degenerate, what is going on? Luke says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a degenerate am I for playing round 2 Live Showdown? Not at all, because I'm talking about it here. I'm certainly playing it. I loved round 1 Showdown for the Live. It all happened at the same time. The sweat was one of the best I've had, regardless of sport, to be honest, because everyone had the same time remaining, right? So the whole time through the contest, the separation between first and like 100th place was like 5 fantasy points, which is like 1 birdie. So I had lineups that would go from like first place down to like 1,000th place in like 2 minutes for the Live Tour, which was really fun from a sweat perspective. But I think it's fair too. Everyone's on that same playing field. You're not going to have those donkeys that go out there and play the 6 guys that tee off in the morning, take a screenshot and go, "Oh, look at me, I'm winning first place in the GPP." I liked it, so I don't think you're that much of a degenerate. It puts you at like a 6.5 because obviously it's the Live Tour, it's that small event. You don't necessarily have to play it, but I'm there too. That's for sure. Kesh Begin says a John Deere letter over your head. Oh yeah, you're saying that about Adam Schenk, lol. Jeff Oswald said, had 4 of 6 of the optimal and Live Showdown, needed a pint in Reed to play better. Needed pints. Not sure. Oh, PO. I'm assuming you're talking about PO. PO, yeah, he was up and down. He made some birdies, but you can tell he's young. He's a teenager still at this point. He definitely needs to clean up his iron play. He misses way too many greens for his liking, but he makes putts and bunches, and his off the tee play is there. I mean, you saw it at the Masters, played really well there at the US Open, was really solid too. I really like his upside going forward, but yeah, he's got to clean things up. He's all over the place, kind of like a young Jordan Spieth, is volatile with everything he does. Mightiest says, hope not many got shanked early in the day and screaming about Pendrith. Yeah, I didn't have Day. I had Pendrith. You absolutely screwed me. He had COVID apparently, by the way. So anybody who's mad at him probably should drop that. Yeah, I got shanked. It didn't matter with Shank. Yeah, he was missing the cut regardless, right? So I'm not that mad that he withdrew. He probably withdrew because he sucked. He probably wasn't even hurt. I saw somebody saying on Twitter that it looked like he was grabbing his back or whatever, but they got to make up some type of excuse, right? So he was selling it like anyone out there would. Jeff Oswald says, anyone like Laird, Turan, and Hodges? I'm on Laird, Turan, okay, but I think Hodges might be a little bit chalky because of how he played today. Hef Sterling says, Webb, yeah, exactly. The guys up top, I'm all for it, dude. I love the fact that they're going to miss the cut. I just, please, have the entire 10K range miss the cut. I didn't play a single one of them. I didn't play Jason Day either. So please just let them all miss the cut. Max House says, so you like targeting Sahith Theegala at the top? I do like going to Theegala. I also like getting to Adam Hadman at the top. Robert says, no Sahith. I think he just said. Jeff Oswald says, did anybody notice the live scores change after everyone finished, or at least that's what I observed? That was for birdie streak. So anybody that had a birdie streak, I know Carlos Ortiz had one, so did Matthew Wolff. That wasn't added until afterwards. They gave you that little push notification on DraftKings. You may or may not have seen it. You had to click on the app to actually get that notification. But yeah, they didn't add those stats until after. So they did all like the actual birdie points, bogey points, all that sort of fun stuff, but not the birdie streaks live. Degenerate said, you sold me. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. A lot of people in my Discord did too. They not everyone profited because it was random. Like you had to have guys like Wiesberger in your player pool. Justin Harding was 40% owned. You also had, who else was like 40%? Henry Duplessis, the guy who finished second in the first event for the Live Tour, was like 48% owned in the GPPs that I was in, which is just ridiculous. I mean, 40% owned of anyone, as you know, is just ridiculous. And you had it of these scrubs like Justin Harding that were like 40% owned. So there's an edge there to be had, that's for sure. If guys like that are going to be ridiculous chalk. Max says, am I going for Sahith and Hadman at the top? I am. I'm going to be leaving quite a bit of salary on the table, though, so I'm not going to have them in every lineup or one or the other. I might be starting a few in that 9K range, but yeah, for the most part, I like those two. And Forbes says, "Let's go." What the heck? And Jeff Oswald says DJ was only 27%. Exactly. So there's a huge edge out there because you had guys that were completely underowned. Then you had guys that were overowned that were legit scrubs out there. So we're going to talk about the live slate here in a second. But I definitely agree. Let's go ahead and hop into the prize picks board now, and then we'll hop into the live board. So go ahead and share my screen here. Let's bring that up, and let me get the comment off here. Let's see. So I have up the board for the PGA, and let's go through my favorite props on the board here. So I actually like the birdie or better props the most. I expect it to play easy, like I was saying. You have the receptive greens, a lot lower winds. If it ends up getting delayed, which is certainly possible in the morning, you're looking at even easier conditions, particularly for the guys that are playing in the morning. So for me, taking guys for the birdies makes a lot of sense, particularly guys that are elite level putters. So guys like JT Poston, right, at 4.5 birdies, I'm probably fading just because we could see some regression from him. And he has the hook there at 4.5. But guys at 4, particularly guys that played well with their ball striking today, are great targets to me. So for Grillo, I talked about before, who I love his upside with the putter. We've seen him spike of late, but even more than that, he has the floor that is given with the ball striking, right? A great player off the tee, great player on approach. I'm willing to take the over on him at 4, right? So that's somebody I had my eye on early for the prize picks board on the PGA side. The guys at the top, like Sahith, Webb, Hadwin, they're okay, right? I don't like the fact we have the hook there, but I have him projected for well over 5 birdies. Especially somebody like Webb projected for 5.2 birdies. He's my highest projection on the entire board. So it is over the 5 threshold that we're looking for. It's just I don't love the play, right? There's a reason why I'm fading him for tomorrow. He's got a disappointment in him. And selfishly, because I'm fading him in DFS, right? I don't want him to go out there and make 5 birdies. So I'm not going to add him to my card here, but I do think it's a solid pick. I think it makes a lot of sense to take the over on Webb Simpson there. Adam Hadwin, same thing. I'm a little bit more willing to take Adam Hadwin on the over there. Just after that horrible performance today, right? There's a reason why he's not 5 birdies tomorrow. Whereas I think legitimately you could project some of these players for 5 birdies and still take the over. Like I said, I have Webb for 5.2 birdies. As somebody like Hadwin, I can't remember off the top of my head. I'd imagine right around like 5.1 or 5 birdies, something in that range where, I can understand projecting them a little bit higher than they are. So in general, I like taking a lot of overs here. Anirban Lahiri, another guy I considered adding to my card. He couldn't putt today. He missed multiple putts within 10 feet for birdie. The ball striking was there. He's accurate off the tee, which is what I'm looking for in terms of off the tee play at TPC Deer Run. So I'm going to go ahead and leave these 2 in here as my favorite birdie or better props, but a lot of overs I'd consider taking. I think Lucas Glover at 4 is more than a fair enough line. Let's see. You got Zach Johnson 4.5. Ooh, yeah, see. I don't think I could take the over on Zach Johnson at 4.5, but give me a few of the elite tier guys like an Adam Hadwin, a Sahith Theegala potentially. And I could see myself making a card of, I don't want to say all overs because the multipier's dog crap for it, right? So if we took just 4 overs here, what do we got for it, right? It's a 8x parlay, or it'd be a 5x flex play. It's not the best, right? But if you took on 1 under, you tried to be a little bit daring there, right? You get 11x for your power play. You get 6.5x for your flex play there. So I really like taking a lot of the overs there. Maybe you want to mix it with another sport, that sort of thing. But that's the main board I'm looking at for the PGA side. Let's take a look at a few other props there. I mean, the greens in regulation aren't horrible. In the past, you saw like 73 point. Let's look it up. We don't have to guess here. You can just look it up. Go here, John Deere Classic. It's this easy, by the way. Do your own research. You're trying to do your own research out there. It's this easy on a golf course, right? Go to greens regulation, 75.3%. So you're looking at 75.3% of greens being hit, which is well over 13. You should be projecting most players well over that. The reason why the prize picks board is down here at 12 is because of what we saw today, which was a windy day, right? We're expecting it to be a lot calmer tomorrow, and we're also expecting it to be potentially more receptive because of some of the rain there. Smash the overs. So kind of like with birdies, I think this board is, I don't want to say completely mispriced, but depending on the play, especially like guys like Sahith and Webb at 12, I love myself that 12 and a half, you get hooked if a guy has a below average day. That doesn't suck, but Anirban Lahiri, a well above average tour player when it comes to his approach play, you're projecting him for well over 13 birdies. Like literally everyone on this board I take the over on. So that it should be relatively easy when it comes to greens. But like I said, some of the guys at 12 make a little bit more sense. Like an Anirban Lahiri. Let's see, anyone else even at 12? Yeah, the guys at the top, Webb Simpson, Theegala. I know they didn't have the best days today, but they're also playing in the morning wave when the greens are going to be their softest, and they're the class of the field, right? You're projecting guys like Denny McCarthy, JT Poston, who historically are extremely inconsistent with their iron play. Now, of late, they've been pretty solid. That's why they've had the recent form that they've had, but I'm much more of a long-term sample size than I am a short-term sample size, at least for these props. That's what served me well over the years, and certainly these guys you'd be projecting for well over 12 greens at this golf course. So I can see myself adding them. If I had to pick my favorites on the board, just to give you 4 here, I'd go with Webb and Sahith there with the greens. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Lahiri would be a close third there. And then with the birdie props, Emiliano Grillo, I guess Lahiri, we'll go with those 2 on that format, right? So we can use all 4 players. Those would be my top 4 PGA props. here for the third round. We'll go ahead and catch up on chat from the prize pick side now, see what anyone is saying down below. Let's see what we've got. We got Jeffy said that before. Yeah, definitely agree with the scoring. It did change afterwards. Jeff said, do you consider quality of the threesomes, so the pairings and which players might play above their head? So Taylor playing with McCarthy, or just the overall quality of the group? I don't, to be honest with you. It's something that I've heard some people implement with their process. I'm just not sure how accurate or how helpful it is, right? Because anyone that's done that hasn't quantified it. And, I'm usually somebody that wants to see results before I go and take the plunge myself, because from the logic standpoint, like, I get it, right? If somebody's playing well, it might inspire you to play better. But, I play golf with my brother all the time, my friends and whatnot. And just because they're making birdies doesn't mean I'm making birdies. Just because they're having fun on the golf course doesn't mean I'm having fun on the golf course, right? So from personal experience, I don't know if I can buy that type of narrative. So I'm not buying in on it, Jeff, but I know a lot of people do, and a lot of sharp people that play DFS and do and make a lot of money playing DFS. I've seen win GPPs before, right? Like myself, implement those sort of strategies. So I don't think you're too far out of left field there. Sam Ergel says Lahiri over Schwartzel, Birdie, or better matchup. And yeah, we'll take a look at the matchup board here too. Great question. I completely neglected that. It's also pretty, it's decent. I don't love matchups. We'll talk about why I don't love them though. But they are certainly a fan favorite. I know a lot of people out there are big people when it comes to matchups. Like they'll bet only matchups on their card. So you have the Schwartzel. Where's that's going to be for the other board, right? No, wait, or Schwab, not Schwartzel. Sorry about that. Where's Lahiri at? Arnabon. So we have Lahiri versus Schwab. That's close to me. I love Lahiri, but Matthias Schwab is a madman. He made a bunch of birdies today. So I would lean towards Lahiri. So if you're somebody who was, already on Lahiri, you were already on it and like it, I wouldn't talk you off of it, but it's not something that I think really stands out on the board. There's a few other matchups that might make a little bit more sense. So let's go through it and see what we've got. I don't hate this Sahith versus John Huh. I'd definitely be taking the Sahith Thagala side there. This Grillo versus Long, I'd be taking Emiliano Grillo. I talked about how much I like him extensively to this point in pretty much every format. Excuse me. We got Cameron Champ versus Adam Svensson. I'd be smashing Cameron Champ there. Absolutely love that. We get Duffner versus Bo Weekley again. They're just trying to like entice me to play this, I guess, but I'm not going to do it. It was a smash play today. It probably should be a smash play tomorrow. So if you're able to put the emotion aside, go out there and play Jason Duffner over against Bo Weekley. But today he lost 1-2. Yeah, he lost to somebody who hasn't played on tour since 2017, right? Just ridiculous, right? It's because he only made one birdie. It's hard to win a birdie or better matchup when you only make one birdie. So as tilted as he makes me, like you can tell, I'm pretty upset about this whole Jason Duffner thing. I think it's a good play. I won't be there myself, but like I said, the numbers back it up. I mean, Bo Weekley, even when he's been playing on the Champions Tour, Korn Ferry Tour, he's played a few times, I believe, over the last few years. It hasn't gone all that well. And today he made 2 birdies, but he shot like 1 or 2 over par. So that tells you his game. He could very well pull Jason Duffner, only make one of those birdies tomorrow. So I would take it, but I don't absolutely love the play. Let's see what else we got. Zach Johnson versus Dylan Fratelli. I don't necessarily hate taking Zach Johnson there. Howell the third versus Rogers, that's very fair. I'd probably fade that matchup. Same thing with the Glover versus Pan matchup. I'd fade that too. They're getting a lot better at making these matchups, by the way. A lot more fair across the board. That's for sure. And I guess Webb versus Lanto. Lanto didn't play all that good today, but he's a madman. He can make birdies in bunches. I mean, even today, the fact that he shot well over par, he still made 3 or 4 birdies on the day. I don't know if I could play that Webb over. I prefer getting to Sahith. John Huh's not the best putter. He doesn't really make birdies in bunches unless he's hitting it to 5 feet on every single hole. So that's why I prefer going that direction. So hopefully that answers your question there, Sam. I like that matchup, the Lahiri versus Schwab, but I think there's a few other on the board I like a little bit more. Roman says a 3-ball for tomorrow. We've got Grillo, Maverick, and Hagee. Grillo won today, so he obviously got some value there. You have Maverick a plus 125, who I'm okay fading. I like both Grillo and Maverick, so I want to get that out there. But I think you can almost write off Hagee. Now, he's a super high upside player, but on a three ball where you're just looking to finish in the top 33%, right, to win. I don't really think you're looking for that top 5 to 10 percentile performance, which is what you're looking for with Hagee. So it's more like a head to head where you're getting juice on both sides. See, that's tough. I mean, I'd prefer to take the extra juice, take Grillo, right? But I think both plays could very easily shoot 4 to 5 under par tomorrow. I think Maverick, if he gets the ball striking working, he's very easily shooting 5, 6 under par. The putter has been there in bunches to this point. And then with Grillo, you have somebody who just needs to turn the putter around, or like he was decent at everything today. He just needs to sharpen it up a little bit across the board. So that's a tough one, but I would lean towards Grillo, but it's a really tough one, to be quite honest with you. Jeff says, what round 2 chalk should we not avoid? So for me, let me go back to my spreadsheet there and I'll give it to you because I don't have it up right now. Let's see. It's mostly in the 7K range. I'm taking Goddard up. He's going to be 10% owned. I'd say he's kind of chalky. I'm playing a relatively chalky Martin Laird. He's right around 16% owned. And then at the top of the board, Hadwin's going to be 18% owned, but I wouldn't say he's chalk, right? That's pretty typical for your 10K options. I'm playing Nick Hardy. He's 15% owned. That's not really chalk, though. And Charles Howell III is also like 18, 19% owned. So I wouldn't call those plays chalk, but they certainly are going to be in the player pool. And I guess we'll look at fairways hit. I should mention that one as well before we hop on to the Live Tour stuff, which is how we're going to wrap up the stream. But I don't know. These seem a little bit harder to get an edge on because you're hitting the average here. If you take a look, 71.4%, which is putting you right around like 9, a little bit over that when it comes to fairways hit per round. I know it's going to be a little bit easier to hit fairways tomorrow. A lot of the players they have on here are relatively high fairway percentage players. So I would lean the over, but it just seems like a riskier prospect. I'd rather go to the greens regulation. When it rains, you tend to get a little bit bigger effect in terms of receptiveness on the greens rather than the fairways. Because a lot of times when you miss a fairway, it's not because you hit them and it rolls off, right? Most of the time, it's because you just missed the fairway to begin with. Whereas with greens, there's plenty of times where you're just rolling off of greens, even though you hit the perfect golf shot, particularly in the afternoon wave, right? That's why we try to target guys in the morning because you don't have the ball roll out quite as much. It's a lot more predictable for these players. And when you have a predictable golf course, it's when these players take it super low. You don't really get that same sort of effect with fairways, at least from what I've observed over the years and what I look at with my numbers. So probably fading the fairways board, but I would lean towards the overs if that's something you're trying to look at. Now let's hop into the live stuff now that we've gone through all those questions. And let's see. Actually, we'll finish the questions that we have here before we hop into the live stuff. Max House says, pick one for showdown, Landry, Blixter, Baddeley. Whew. Go Landry. I think it'll be the lowest owned of the bunch, Max, but I like all three of them. And Jeff says none. Kelly Craft, no. I like all three of those actually, Jeff. So you might have gotten in here a little bit late. I like all three of those plays that he mentioned. Just if I had to choose between them, that's who I'd go with. But let's look at the leaderboard. So we don't have a bunch of data to go off of here, but we don't have like Data Golf giving us the breakdown for every single hole. We're going to kind of have to bootleg this a little bit. And I watched the entire broadcast. Given the fact that there's like 35 or 40 of the top 100 players in the world in this field, obviously I thought it was a little bit more interesting than the PGA Tour event, to be quite honest with you. So I watched a lot of it, and the golf course looked extremely long. So we got the scorecard on Tuesday, and it was like 7,800 yards for a par 71, which ridiculously long if we just looked at that alone. Except the fact that it's in the mountains up there in Portland. It's like at elevation. The ball's traveling a good 7% farther. You had guys hitting drives like 330 all day. You had guys hitting their 5 irons like 240 yards. Patrick Reed reached a par 5 and 2, and it was like a 570-yard par 5 with a 5 iron. So that should tell you, it's playing like at least 10% less far, at least 5 to 10% less distance. So it's not quite the beast that it looks like on paper. It's more like a 7,300 yard par 71. So we'll set that straight. So it's not really a bomber's fest. And the best way to look at this, first, Pat Perez is up there in the top 3. Carlos Ortiz is winning this damn event. And while he gets it out there with his distance, he's not a bomber. We know that's for sure. Tanihara is skinny as fuck. He's like 5'3". He's not a bomber. He just hits it straight as shit. Kuzuma, Enormi, all these guys that are from the Japan Tour, all just relatively straight precision type of players. And you can see Brendan Grace, another one of those type of guys, Wade Ormsey, Louis Oosthuizen. There's a few exceptions, right? Like a Dustin Johnson, like a Brooks Koepka, for example, but they're just the best players in the world to begin with. We expect them to be at the top of the leaderboard. The surprises, the guys we wouldn't expect to be there, are the guys that are the shorter players. So that leads me to believe that because of the elevation change, it's a lot more about hitting fairways there than it is about actually hitting it out there with your distance. So it's a little bit speculative. Again, we have no data to go off of. I couldn't even find fairway percentages to this point from the Live Tour. I couldn't even find the GIR numbers and whatnot. I'm sure we'll get them at some point tonight on Twitter from somebody that drops them for all of us. But from what I can just tell, especially from some of the surprise names at the top of the board, looks like a golf course where you want to be hitting fairways and the putter's got to get hot. I mean, right? Louis Oosthuizen, infamous for just getting that hot putter work. And I mean, even Brooks Koepka, right? He can be a streaky putter from time to time. And if you're looking for streaky putters, you know Dustin Johnson is the name. So another thing to look at now is scoring. So for Carlos Ortiz, he made a ton of birdies. I believe he had 4 on the front 9 and another 3 on the back 9. So he had 7 on the day. So pretty ridiculous there. DJ made quite a few himself, 3 on the front 9 and 2 on the back 9. So 5 on the day. Guys like Tani Hara, I believe he made like 6, 2. He made 5. So pretty solid there. Scoring was pretty solid. I mean, so we thought it was going to be a beast, especially after we got that scorecard. But I mean, I think you're going to have a winning score here, probably around 12, 11 under par, something like that, unless Dustin Johnson just goes on a run for all 3 days. But I don't think you're going to see people just shoot 6, 7 under par every single day. It's going to be moderate, but it's not this beast. I mean, people thought I was going to play like well over par. Like the winning score right now is going to be like 1 to 2 under after the first round. That obviously isn't the case to this point. We take a look at the weather today. It was flat all day. It was super low winds, just 5 to 10 miles an hour for the day. And obviously they're teeing off at right around 1 p.m. local time over there. I believe 1:30 local time over there on the West Coast. And you can see the wind is just like today, right? It's in that 7 to 9 mile an hour range to start. And then it gets up to a whopping 10 to 12 miles an hour. So I expect scoring to resemble what we saw here, where the scoring average is going to be right around even par. And then, the higher quality players are going to shoot something probably closer to like 1.5 under par as an average. So, I mean, if you go to the bottom of the board, I mean, other than Graham McDowell, it's like all unknown players, like guys that you've literally never heard of before. Like good luck saying that name right there. Good luck saying any of the names down low, to be honest with you. Turk Pettit actually thought he'd play a little bit better. Bernd Wiesberger was playing amazing. What the heck happened to him? I got to see this. He made a 9 on a par 4. You guys see this right here? That's what happened to him. He was even par on the day. He was in fact under par at one point. He was up there in the top 3. That's when I was watching him early. And then on his last hole, he made a quintuple bogey. So that's what happened to Bernd Wiesberger. Interesting. So a lot of people that are just scoreboard watching, that are looking at the leaderboard, probably think he had a horrible day. Wiesberger actually played pretty damn solid. So I'll be getting back there for sure. This Lopez Chikara guy is insane. He went to Oklahoma State, which is where Victor Hovland went. It's where Matthew Wolff went. A lot of the young up-and-coming studs out of Oklahoma State have said that this kid's like the best of the bunch. Like this kid would kick their asses. And anytime they've gone by the university, they've said that he's been unbelievably talented. So I'm buying in on him. He looked pretty damn solid today, to be honest. And you can see the rest of the board, right? It gets a lot more realistic towards the 3 to 4 over par range, right? So the true like blow up rounds, they were by a lot of the nobodies. And then towards the top of the board, you see the cream rise to the top. So from a skill set perspective, like I said, I think we're looking at precision guys over power guys. And then as per usual with Showdown, we're looking for players that can get hot with the putter. I mean, especially at a precision golf course. And at least that's how I'm playing it to this point. I thought it was going to be a Bombers affair going into the week, but I've been proven wrong, right? The elevation, I didn't think about it, right? Can't think of everything when you're a DFS analyst. You're not always going to get everything right. So I've corrected my modeling a little bit there. So let's take a look at the board. So I've got it up over here for Showdown. It's not quite as soft as usual. I mean, usually with Showdown, Webb's $10,600. But I mean, we don't have all these guys priced over 10 grand, right? Or all the guys priced over 9 grand. So to try and fit a bunch of these studs into the same lineup, it really isn't going to be possible. We're going to have a lot harder time doing so. So We're gonna have to be a little bit more strategic about this. We will talk about strategy this time, which I think is always the most important part about Showdown. So if you have any questions as we go, feel free to go ahead and put them down in chat. Um, we will get to them towards the end after I talk through my pool. Excuse me, 1 second. Alrighty, been talking for a while. I had to get some water. Let's go ahead and hop back into it. So at the top of the board, Dustin Johnson's going to be super duper chalky, right? He's at the top of the leaderboard. Pretty much an auto fade for me when it comes to that. Brooks Koepka probably going to get quite a bit of attention, but I'm a little bit more likely to play him than I am somebody like a DJ. Abraham Answer, probably worth a few looks because he set up so many birdie looks. He just could not cash in for the life of him. When he was making putts, they were for par, which you saw today from a few of the guys on the leaderboard, like Maverick McNeely towards the end of his round or towards the beginning of Maverick's round today. So I'm going to get to Abraham Answer. Just hope the ball striking, remains there. But when he's making putts, let's hope it's for birdie tomorrow, right? He can go out there and actually score for us in Showdown. So I definitely will have some Answer. Louis Oosthuizen's probably another fade. He gained again, we don't have shots gained metrics, but he just made everything with the putter. I mean, all of his birdies were like 20 footers. He wasn't really sticking it to 3 feet like you saw some of the other players in the field. So if we had shots gained metrics, I would imagine that Louis Oosthuizen lost to the field. Right. So that's what I'd have to say about that. I got a comment. I have to comment out. Robert says, pretty hilarious. The prize picks lines makers hang out in your live stream and adjust the lines as you put them out. I hope that's not true. Sorry. I caught that comment out the side of my eye. I hope that's not true because if they've already changed, that's actually kind of nuts. Because there's only 54 people in here right now. I'm not trying to shit on my live stream. How many people are in here, but there's no chance that much action is actually changing the lines live. Right. So, yeah, Robert, hopefully that's not true. I caught that comment outside my eye. That's kind of nuts. Let's talk through this board, though. So, as I was saying, I don't hate Louis, but like I said, he's kind of putting dependent. So, I don't like him as much. I like Answer. Taylor Gooch, he shot even par today. So, it's 14th place, right? But he was never on the broadcast. He was never in a positive light. You never saw him making a birdie putt. So, anybody that was watching probably thinks he had a much worse day than he did. And, if I know Taylor Gooch, it was probably just the flat stick. He was probably hitting the ball to 20 feet all day and just could not cash in. So tomorrow, maybe he's a little bit sharper with the irons, actually hit shots to like 5 to 10 feet. Or maybe next time he goes out there and it just has a hotter flat stick, make some of those 20 to 25 footers. But yeah, hopefully Taylor Gooch can go off. That'd be pretty nice there. Brooks Koepka, I think he's going to be a little bit popular. So I'm probably off of Koepka too. Again, I'd rather take the pivots here with an Answer and a Taylor Gooch. In the 9K range, I like taking some of the chalk a little bit more. I think Bryson might be popular, but he's starting to look a lot better. I mean, we have the major championship coming up in over, like a week and a half, 2 weeks here at this point. Bryson might be a factor at the Open. I mean, his ball striking, he's starting to hit some greens. His distance control is starting to get there. It's the putter that has held him back. And we know Bryson could be a streaky mofo when it comes to that flat stick. And when he gets that thing working, watch the hell out. I mean, he gains 8 to 9 strokes on the field at times. The ball striking's there. Off the tee play, he's playing more strategic. He's starting to play smart off the tee. He's not hitting the driver on every single hole, even on the Live Tour, which you think he wouldn't give a shit about, right? But he's out there strategically playing every single hole. Perhaps he's just gearing up for the Open Championship, right? He knows he's going to have to lay up off the tee. He's going to have to play a little bit more strategically. I'm getting more and more excited about him at the Open. Like I'm getting to the point where I'm going to bet him outright to win the Open. And it's not a golf course that he should win at. Like St. Andrews is like the thinking man's golf course, right? It's a shot shaper's golf course. But Bryson DeChambeau also just can crack golf courses. He can break them. I mean, they said the same thing about Winged Foot. I know I'm getting ahead of myself here. We're talking about the Open Championship now, but they said the same thing about Winged Foot, and he cracked it. He absolutely just tore it to shreds. I don't want to say he's doing the same thing because it's not a super long U.S. Open setup. It's not really a one-to-one type of thing, but his bomb and gouge game when he's hitting every fairway and putting it out there 350, I mean, that translates to every golf course. It doesn't matter where you are. I mean, that's going to be hard to beat, right? And especially when he's gaining 8 strokes to the field with the putter. That's what he did at Winged Foot. He could break golf courses. So I like going to him in Showdown for that reason. But at major championships, he's especially intriguing, particularly if he's going to be like 100 to 1 to win the Open or some crazy number like I expect him to be at. Moving on a little bit further, I like Kevin Na. He's that spike putter I'm looking for. Also accurate off the tee. Probably fading Pat Perez who I love. He's just a savage in his interviews, but I think he'll be overowned. Right? He shot -3 today. He's at the top of the board. Wiesberger, I mentioned the quintuple bogey to end his round. I think he'll be a lot lower owned than he should be just because of that little gaff at the end of his round. Matthew Wolff looked really good today. He made, I believe, 4 birdies on his round. Started 2 over par, so looked really rough early, but turned it around, was able to play consistent for his last 13 holes. So I like the momentum that we saw and the fact that he's a streaky putter, which is what I'm looking for in Showdown. Justin Harding was 40% owned. Duplessis was like 50% owned. I think the biggest reason for that, by the way, guys, was the pricing. So let's talk about the pricing. These 2 players were at the top of the 7K range. So the guys that are at the top of the 7K range tomorrow that I think might be those chalky players, first off, Carlos Ortiz at $7,400. He's in the middle of the 7K range. He's the only one at $7,400. And like that's just like a common resting spot when it comes to building your lineups. Like I'm sure you guys, when you're hand building, you a lot of times like have $7,300 to $7,500 remaining, right? And I'd imagine most people, when they see that, they're just going to try and take Carlos Ortiz. They have enough salary for it. So I think he's going to be incredibly chalky. I think Brendan Grace, they're at $7,800. You might see like 40% ownership on again, because a lot of people don't know the names in this range. And if you look at the bottom of the 7K range, guys, Scott Vincent, Richard Bland, even a lot of people aren't going to know about. Kim here, Ormsey, like only us DFS hardcores know who Wade Ormsey is. Rakuya Kinoshita, bet you didn't know who that is. I do. He's an Asian Tour player. He's unbelievably talented. You can play these type of guys, right? Like Wade Ormsey, like we played them today. They played pretty damn well. The guys that are going to be chalky, though, are the ones that played well, the ones that have minus next to their name, right? They're going to go, oh, Scott Vincent. He'll probably be like 15% owned just because he's -1 on the board. So the ones that I am especially excited about getting about are guys like Rakuya that are over par, that are the same type of player, just the slappies, the people that have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. They just go and just tilt enter lineups, aren't going to play him because they're like, oh, Rakuya Kinoshita, he's probably shit at golf. No, he's probably a lot better than most of the players that you support on the tour this week that you played for the John Deere. It's probably a shit ton better than them. I can almost guarantee it. So $6,800, I'm playing him. I'm getting the Yuka Inamori. He's also a very solid player. Chase Koepka, he's going to get played because he has Koepka next to his name. He didn't look all that good today. I played him, didn't go over all that well. But Tanihara, very solid player on the Asian Tour. I'd be willing to get there. Jediah Morgan, very solid amateur. He's like 19 years old at this point. He's only $6,000. I'd play him over a lot of people. James Pio, he made quite a few birdies today. I'd be willing to get to him. Just in Showdown, I'm taking chances on these guys down low because they're going to go out there and have a performance. Last week, that was, Henny Duplessis, right? It was like $6,100, and he shot like under par every single day. Who else played extremely well last week as a nobody? I mean, you had like Scott Vincent, for example, was in contention through the first 3 rounds, quote unquote, nobody going into that week. You're going to get a few guys this week that do that same exact thing because they're not nobodies. They're only nobodies because you don't watch golf every single week and you don't pay attention to the international tours, which I don't expect everyone to do that, right? You're not as hardcore golf fan as, I don't want to say people like myself. I don't want to act like an elitist, but for people that do this for a living, right? The people that actually pay attention to the quote unquote boring tours out there because they don't have $1 million prize pools. They don't have Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods playing at them every single week, right? But I don't want to say a similar level of play. I mean, I've shit on the Korn Ferry Tour. I've shit on the DP World Tour enough on this channel to know that obviously I call them like the minor leagues of the sports leagues, but the minor leaguers still have their stars too, right? And a lot of times those minor leaguers get called up to the big leagues, right? And I think a lot of the guys that you're seeing on the Live Tour here are guys that are quote unquote being called up to the big leagues because, I mean, this is obviously the better field this week on the PGA Tour. So I don't think you should, or I should say in the golf world, sorry, not on the PGA Tour. So I think you should give them some respect down low. Don't be afraid to play some of the guys here in the 6K range, particularly if you want to be aggressive up top. Let's say you want to play Answer and Gooch together or something like go to an Answer, DeChambeau, and a Kevin Na. So be aggressive there in that 9K plus range. You're going to have to be creative down low. You're going to have to be willing to take some of the guys that you might not know all that much about, right? But take shots on them. Who are guys that you don't want to take? The guy that's plus 10 here that I've literally never heard of. I've never heard of this guy either that I can't say his name. I've never heard of Blake Windred. So don't know who that is. I probably wouldn't play him. I wouldn't play this guy either. I can't say his name. And it's one of the craziest names I've ever seen in my life. they're very much numbered. It's like those 4 or 5 players. Everyone else in the field, I'd be willing to take a shot on down low. Just take 4 or 5 if you're playing your 20 to 25 lineups. Pick your core to go around and go with them, right? Because you can't play everyone down low. If you're playing 20 lineups, you can't just pick one of these guys in each lineup, right? Don't go that way. Don't just completely scattershot it. You got to pick your spots, but I think there's plenty of options down there in the 6K range to get to. The top of the board, we talked about some of my favorite plays. The middle of the board, like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of chalk towards the top of the 7K range here, especially like a Carlos Ortiz, Brendan Grace that are towards the top of the board. I think this 8K range is going to get overlooked. It was for the first round. You had a lot of single-digit owned guys in the 8K range just because they have a lot of less perceived value, right? Your casual golf fan, thinks, oh, Charles Schwartzel, Wiesberger especially, right? He's going to be super low owned. Even Sam Horsfield here at $9,400 is going to be royally underowned because your casual golf fan goes, oh, Bryson, oh, Patrick Reed, major champion, oh, Brooks Koepka, right? All these guys that they've definitely heard of before. I think a lot of the people playing Live, by the way, are just complete slapdicks. I mean, they made Justin Harding 40% owned. They made Duplessis 50% owned. I mean, let's get real, guys. They're not a very sharp competition at this point, to say the least. I absolutely printed money today. And my lineups didn't even do all that well, and absolutely printed money today. These guys are going to be completely underowned. Like they're just like a third of the ownership that they should be. So if there's going to be any spot to get a lot of leverage to just take shots on players, it's everyone you see pictured right here. Every single person on this range that you see on the screen. So from $9,400 the whole way down to $8,100. And that includes Harding today and Duplessis. Again, the only reason they were super chalky was because of their price yesterday, okay? All these guys are going to be super low owned. So I would get to them in bunches. So that would be my spiel there for the Live Tour stuff. And now let's go ahead and look at the Prize Picks board from. So I'll go ahead and bring up the board. And we'll hop through some of the questions in chat before I do so too. So let's see what we got here. Let's see. We talked about the Prize Pick situation. That's interesting. We have a question about Dylan Fratelli. So Dylan Fratelli, he played really well today. I think he's going to be popular in Showdown. If you're going to target him tomorrow, I think maybe going in a 3-ball matchup would be the way that I'd go after it because I think he has a relatively high floor, or on the Prize Picks board. Going after Greens of Regulation, I don't even know if he's on the board for that. Let me check. Let me give you a definitive answer, but I'd rather take him on Prize Picks, or I'd rather take him on something like a betting site, because in DFS, I think he's going to be a little bit too popular. Do we have Fratelli on the board? It doesn't look like we do. So I'd stick to the outright betting board for him. In DFS, I think he's a little bit too popular. So that's my spiel on Fratelli. I don't hate the play, though. We have Jeffy says Rogers was 200 today. Can he go low? I think he can. He did not hit an iron for his life. He was consistently having to get up and down. He made an eagle to bail himself out, but he had that magic broomstick. So, Jeff, I think he can go low. That's for sure. Michael says, why do Prize Picks payouts change with golf? It's a little bit of a correlation that they do. So what Prize Picks does with golf, if you take all overs or all unders in a card, you're going to get penalized for it because all the picks correlate. And thus, if win conditions are way different than they expect, if all the overs hit on birdies because it's super easy and they expected it to play difficult, they don't get slammed, right? They don't lose 12.5x on every parlay. Whereas when you differentiate it, right, if you take like 3 overs and 2 unders, you're not playing the quote unquote advantage, like whether the weather is going to be harder than the other, which can kind of be binary, right? It can be whether they either get the weather right or they get it wrong, which, like I said, it's like either a yes or no type of thing. They don't want to be paying out all these massive parlays because they got something like that wrong. So their way to de-incentivize you to play cards like that is to only give you an 8x payout or to lower your payout on those. So to be fully transparent, that's exactly why they do that, because they don't want you playing the weather advantage, right? So that's why when I'm playing a weather advantage, I'll mix it with another sport, right? So I'll play the 4 overs on birdies, like I mentioned before. Those are my favorite props, or the 4 overs on JARs for PGA, which I mentioned just a minute ago, and then mix in an NBA prop, or this time of the year, go to an MLB prop that I really like. And I'm not an MLB analyst, but I know a lot of them. And I know a lot of damn good MLB analysts that I can ask. So, I'll hit one of them up and say, hey, what's the move for MLB today? Like, what's your lock or whatever? And then mix in my 4 picks. I might ask for 1 to 2 picks from the MLB guy too, right? So I can make 2 cards in case their quote unquote lock doesn't come through, right? Because there's no such thing as a lock out there, right? And I know that, right? I'm not going to give them shit about it. But That's what I go with. So that's what I would do if you're worried about the multiplier, is just try and mix it with other sports, because for the most part, and I don't think it's for every sport, it washes away that multiplier. It reverts you to a regular parlay. So yeah, Michael, that's why they do that. It's to protect themselves, but you can take advantage of it if you can find 5 sharp lines. Mark Green says, wonder what the price will be for somebody shooting a major record 61 at St. Andrews. Does seem a bit defenseless at the modern day Bombers. I agree. I think that you might see somebody, I mentioned Bryson as an example, but anybody that's an elite off the tee player, Rory comes to mind, right? Because Rory's absolutely striking it right now, could do that, could shoot a 61 there, which would be ridiculous. It would be, that would break the record for major championship golf, I'm pretty sure as well, Mark Green. That'd be nuts, but maybe we see it. Maybe it happens this year. Excuse me, guys, 1 second. That it makes sense now. Yeah, they're trying to protect their wallets. That's all they're doing there. And Max House says, I hope Hahn goes low tomorrow. I do too. I'm going to have him in Showdown. Have him in a few 4-round lineups as well. So I agree. Let's go ahead and talk through the Live Golf board. So for the Prize Picks board, we only have strokes and birdies, so we don't have a massive board to go off of here. But I think it's an okay board. It's a par 70. I thought it was a par 71. We're going to double check this. I'm 99% sure it's a par 71, and they have it listed as a par 72. Let's double check that. Oh, it's a par 72. I'm incorrect. It's going to happen from time. It's because, I knew one was a par 35. That's why I thought it was a par 72. The other side is a par 37. So just a wacky golf course in general. A lot of that's due to the composite design. They're going off of 2 golf courses. But with a par 72, it makes me like these a little bit more, actually, towards the over. I was going to be taking a mostly fade stance here with the strokes, because I think the birdies board's a lot better. What we saw today is that this is a golf course where if you're hitting fairways, you're going to have birdie opportunities. If you're not hitting fairways, you're going to be saving par a lot. So for me, I'm really looking for accurate drivers, particularly when it comes to the Live Tour stuff, which we talked about before, right? Like I said, it looks like a long golf course, but because of the elevation change, it plays a whole lot shorter. So I like Answer here at 3.5. I talked about him having no birdie putts today, just could not buy a putt for his life. I expect him to rebound in that category. So I like taking him at 3.5. Schwartzel had a horrible day today, but his ball striking has been there for quite some time. So if you expect him to rebound, which I definitely do expect, I'd consider taking the over there. Matthew Wolff at 3.5. We're going to give us that again. I love that. He looks great his last 13 holes. The guys at 4, I don't really like Ortiz. Perez, I definitely wouldn't take it 4. At 4.5, I do not like taking the guys up top. But Bryson here at 3.5 too. I would take all 4 of these players on the over. So it's kind of similar to the John Deere board, where I like all the birdies. Kind of like I said with the weather, it's laying down, right? It's like it was here on Thursday. It's super low, 6 to 10 miles an hour. Here on Friday, it's 6 to 10 miles an hour. So super easy conditions. I would expect just as easy scoring, if not easier scoring, when it comes to the field. So take the overs on a lot of the birdie props. I just wouldn't go crazy with the guys at 4 or the guys at 4.5. Poulter at 3, probably worth a few looks too. I don't hate that. McDowell played horribly today. I'm not sure I could get there. And even Phil Mickelson at 2.5 birdies, guys. I'd probably even take the over on him there. He hit the ball well today, especially with some of his wedges. Just the putter has continued to be a problem for Phil Mickelson. And I can tell you, especially as a bad putter myself, hey, it'll come around from time to time. Even when you're in a dry spell with that flat stick, you'll have a few rounds where you make a few. So perhaps that's Phil Mickelson tomorrow, but he only has to make 3 to get there, right? And there's multiple par 5s on site that are reachable for the entire field, and a few par 4s where you're not going to have more than a wedge in. So I would like taking him on the over. And then with strokes, like I said, it's not my favorite board. I'm probably fading it for the most part. Graham McDowell at 74.5. It's the first time noticing that. I'd take the under, right? He had a horrible day today, but we do not expect him to shoot 6-7 under par again. He'd have to shoot 2 over or better to hit the under for you there, so I don't hate that. I guess Bryson shooting under par, that seems like something that I'd consider taking. And if you were going to take any of the elite tier guys here, even at that, right? I thought it was a par 71. That's why at first I thought it was a par 71. I was like, 69.5, shoot 2 under par. I think that's more than reasonable. Now that it's a par 72, and I know that, I'm probably completely fading the guys up top. So for me, if you're going to take any shots, I think McDowell at 74.5. I don't expect him to have another horrible day here. I consider taking the under on his strokes. But outside of that, it's mostly a fade for me on that side of things. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Let's see if there's any questions before we finish this there. Let's see what we've got. We've got Jason says, wrong drink, Luke. Yeah, I've got some water today. Hey, it's during the week. Tomorrow we will have some whiskey at hand, that's for sure. We'll have some fun for our round 3 stuff. But it's during the week. Got to have some moderation on my end. So I definitely agree with you. It is the wrong drink. I wish it was a whiskey, but that's what we're going with. And Abel says Charles Schultz today. I agree. He did make 3 birdies though, so he gave it a shot. He was like 3 over par at one point, bro. I was completely done with him. And by the time I checked at the end, he almost pulled it out. So yeah, he sold, but he didn't sold that hard. He gave us the 50% off special, right? He only tried for 9 of his holes for whatever reason. But again, I appreciate everybody stopping by. I know it was a long live stream. I am going to put in time markers afterwards. So if I decide to do this sort of thing going forward, you'll be able to kind of like skip around when watching the replay to see what you want to. So if you're only playing like Showdown, right? Go to the Showdown part. You don't have to watch the whole live stream to find it or whatever. Or if you're playing all 4 slates, you can watch the whole damn thing, right? Doesn't matter to me. Either way, though, I appreciate you stopping by and consuming the content. If you haven't already smashed that like button, make sure you go ahead and do that. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you go ahead and do that too. We are going to be doing the same thing for rounds 3 and 4. I'm not sure if it's going to be one single live stream or whether it's going to be split up like I usually do, but in either circumstance, we'll have you covered for the Showdown and Prize Picks slates. And overall, I'm expecting tomorrow to be a pretty solid day, especially on Prize Picks. I think they have quite a few of their lines lower than they should be. And then on the Showdown side of things, just target guys that are high birdie percentage players, solid putters that can take this place 7 to 8 under par, because you're going to see it tomorrow. This golf course is going to get torn to shreds. It's going to be the John Deere Classic of old, where you see low 60s sniffed by a lot of the field. So I'm looking forward to it. If you're a golf fan, you like seeing birdies made, you're going to have a lot of fun here on Friday. And let's get some of our guys through the cut. The guys that were sucking like an Adam Schenk, they withdrew. They got their bum asses out of here. We don't have to worry about them anymore. We don't have to worry about Pendrith, right? He withdrew, right? They're out of the picture. The guys that are around, let's get them through the cut, because as of right now, I think there's only 2 of them out of my 24 players that aren't through the cut line, or at least aren't at even par. I believe it's even par or better. Everyone but 2 players. So hopefully we have a solid cut day, everyone out there as well. And I'll catch you guys next time.